If you are new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
So with that being said, let's get into 12 time-saving tips for you in your vegetable garden, assuming that sometime this year we will be in the vegetable garden. These are really good information to have. We're going to go through these. We're not going to go a whole lot in depth in a lot. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but I want to make it aware that this is what you can do. You can get a big garden, you can have a nice garden, whatever size you believe is big, and still have production and not be overwhelmed, as we talked about last week, not being burnt out by trying to take on too much or not having all this stuff. So the first one is...
You want to save half the time by learning how to garden online. Now, there are many online resources. There's YouTube videos. There's...
University Extension.
There's podcasts. There's all sorts of great information online. And this digital age we live in, this is a positive. For sure, you can watch these videos, learn how I'm having this problem. Let me just look that up. And then all of a sudden you'll find a blog post about it or an extension article about it or a video about it. So that's definitely a great way to save some time.
And you want to make sure it's a reliable source as well. Another way is use irrigation to water your crops. A lot of people, obviously this makes more sense if you have a large garden to grow in. But even on smaller standpoint, the Plant Booster is a sponsor here on the program, which it's a electronic means of watering your containers, and it will sense that the container is getting light, and it'll basically turn on, and it will let the water permeate into the container, so you don't have to water. So
or something like Oyas.
Right.
Oyas are you bury them below the ground, and they are made out of a porous terracotta. You put the water in there, and as the soil needs that water, it's going to draw it from that clay pot.
And other means of drip irrigation or above-ground irrigation, just something that you can set and forget about it, basically, and the plants can get what they need. You can start from transplants to have a jump on the season, whether you start them indoors, whether you buy them at Blue Mel's Landscape and Garden Center, or your favorite garden center, wherever you might be out in the country. You don't have to worry about grow lights, you don't have to worry about space. You go and get them, they're already hardened off, you plant them, and you're good to go. Very quick, a small investment for a very large return. You buy a tomato plant for, I'm picking a number here, let's say $2. You get 20 pounds to 30 pounds of tomatoes off that plant over the growing season. Pretty good investment. So that's another way.
Right. So then we have that. You could use a bulb planter to transplant. A bulb planter, basically, if you've never seen one, it's like a cylinder with a handle on it, and it helps kind of loosen that soil, dig it up for you, and then it'll help you transplant.
Makes it easier, more than a little trowel or garden shovel, because it actually removes that big chunk of soil.
That definitely, and we use a postal digger for our tomato plants, so
yeah.
That's kind of in line with that. Grow low-maintenance crops. So crops that grow easy, and you don't have to worry about spending a lot of time thinking about them. One of those would probably be leafy greens. Leafy greens are easy to grow.
Early and late in the season. Grow perennial vegetables. Plant it once and let the plant feed you through the number of years. Asparagus, rhubarb, raspberries, blueberries, that type of thing. Fruit trees.
Right, all of these are,
Minimum to no maintenance on these. Jerusalem artichokes are another one, that they will come back year and year and year after year, where you don't have to do virtually anything. You might have to maintain the plant a little bit, trim it back, or take care of a minor problem, but you don't have to start them each year. You don't have to plant them each year. They're there. And if you've got, we talked about berry plants a couple of weeks ago, if you've got a spot where you know you're going to be there for the next 10, 20, 30, whatever, put some perennials in there. That's the way to go. Asparagus will last up to 50 years in a spot, and you get a harvest every 3 weeks a year. Strawberries are another one that you can use that will feed. You don't have to do anything about it. Now, some of those are fruits. Vegetables are, it falls in both categories.
Definitely. So that's a good one. Grow wild and rambunctious vegetables. So that basically means that grow vegetables that might grow wildly, if they reseed themselves quickly. Basically let those crazy vegetables, crazy edibles do the work for you.
And there's a whole list that we're not going to go into. You can certainly go to your favorite search engine and look that up. But the gamut is unlimited to what you can do. And you may already have some growing in somewhere near you that you weren't really aware of. For example, Jerusalem artichokes. There's a wild variety that people it looks like a weed until you dig up the roots.
There's wild asparagus.
Whatever it
Right.
is, be sure you're 100% identified that plant, that it's not a mystery or it's a copycat plant where if you consume it, it can have ill effects on you. Make sure you can identify it 100% before you consume anything that you're uncertain of.
Then we have aerate your compost.
The more air you put in your compost pile, the typical compost pile, perfect idea. Everybody says, "Oh, what's the perfect size?" 1 cubic yard, 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. Aerate it. You're going to add more oxygen in it. You're going to add the proper amount of greens, proper amount of browns, and it's going to break down and turn into compost quicker. Get heated, the core heated correctly, in which will kill the viability of the seeds in which you put in there from the plants that are being composted.
Okay. Yep. And then we have do research before you start gardening. Grow what works in your area. We talk about this all the time. Grow what you know you're going to use, what you're going to eat, what is successful. You cannot necessarily grow a banana plant in Wisconsin.
We're not in the domes downtown.
Right.
You've
So
got to be smart about
Gotta be
this.
smart about that.
There are some things that we try that we know it's not recommended for here, either outdoors or indoors, but we take the opportunity and experiment with it. Yacons, root crop, South American, not supposed to be grown here in the northern climates. Grows very well. Needs about 9 months of growing. It really will grow good in about 5.5 months. Jicama, we're going to be attempting to grow that. Not supposed to be grown up here. We're going to grow that and see what we can make happen. Dwarf lime tree or dwarf fruit trees indoors. You can do that. You just want to be smart and not invest a whole lot of time and effort into that, knowing what the end result might be. Take a little 2% of your time and figure out, okay, let me try this. If it works, escalate that time you put into it the next year.
So grow nutritious soil and use good amendment. Soil is the lifeblood of your plants. That's how they get their food.
You feed the soil feeds the plant.
Right.
That's how the organic world works. That's how nature works. The leaves fall in the forest. It feeds the soil feeds the vegetation in the forest and the prairie lands, and that's how nature keeps going.
That's exactly it. Use the mulch to cover the ground. Mulch is amazing. It helps keep in moisture. It helps smother out weeds. It helps keep, when soil splashes up on your plants, it helps prevent that. There's good and bad things in your soil. If you put the mulch around your soil, the good things will feed your plants. The bad things, when you put the mulch around, it will not get splashed up on your plants.
And the thing about mulch, and I know gardeners ask, well, why do I need to put mulch on my garden? Suppress weeds, like Holly talked about, retain moisture, but look at nature. Tell me, where in nature is the soil not covered? The soil, prairie lands, in nature, forest. The only place that the ground is not covered is the desert. Mm-hmm. Nature covers the soil to protect the life of the soil. As well, we should cover the soil in our garden in order to protect the microbial life and help build the ecosystem that we have under the soil that feeds our plants in order to feed us. And lastly,
grow crops that grow quickly. So things like radishes grow in 30 days. Lettuce grows pretty quickly.
You got to keep in mind that those are day sensitive, right, light sensitive things. So early, late in the season. Tomatoes, you can get some tomatoes that'll grow in 62 days. Some of the hybrids will produce. Beans will grow in about 60 days. So I mean, obviously you can't. You got to be reasonable about what quickness is. Obviously, rhubarb takes about 3 years to get to the point where you can harvest. That's not a quick growing plant. Beans, 60 days, 40 to 60 days. Radishes, 18 to 32 days. Tomatoes, as short as 60 days. Potatoes, early potatoes, you can get them as early as 60 days. So a lot of different choices in that realm of possibilities in order to get a quicker growing crop. And herbs, you can have them inside in your window, and you can have them growing all year round. Obviously, you can't have a whole salad full of basil leaves, but it's a supplement. It's an additional flavoring that is very cheap to grow, but costly to buy. Thank you for checking out the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. For more, go to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for full-length in-studio video and podcast replay of Season 1. Season 2 underway and added weekly. Tweet us at TWVG Show or hashtag TWVG to be part of the program.